Hello, everyone. Welcome to Optimizing Your Payments Technology in the Retail Revolution. So hi, I'm Holly Wurst. I'm the Director of Vertical Growth for the Retail, Grocery, and Petrol vertical here at WorldPay. So while I work for a payments company, my passion and all my experience has always been in retail. So I definitely come at this with an angle of trying to understand how can, as retailers and cosmetic retailers, how can we perfect the payment experience to help us sell more stuff to our customers? Very happy to take questions as we go, or at the end, there'll be some Q&A, or honestly, feel free to email me at holly.wurst@fisglobal.com, and happy to walk through more of this presentation or anything that you've ever wanted to talk about payments. So kind of kicking off, why are we talking about the retail revolution? So I've been in retail a really long time, and every single year there's something that's going on in the industry and disrupting the industry. But really what happened is that COVID just put it into the forefront and just sped everything up. So we've always been talking about how kind of stores were dying or being repurposed for other reasons, and e-commerce was growing. But COVID, what we saw is here in the UK, I'm London based, we saw about 17,500 chain stores close their doors. Insane. And on top of this is already a trend that we were seeing, that it's predicted that about 100,000 storefronts will disappear by 2025. And on top of this, we saw e-commerce grow 24% year over year, which is insane. So we saw numbers that we weren't expected to see for about 5 years happen within 1 year. So COVID just sped up a process that was already happening. So if retailers haven't really been putting much effort into their online experience and thinking mobile first and digital first, there's no excuse now. It's really the time to do that. So a lot of the stats that I'm going to be bringing up throughout this presentation actually comes from a Power Your Payments report that WorldPay conducted last year. So we asked over 33,000 shoppers from 12 different countries about their digital payment experiences and preferences. And so basically we wanted to come up with a report that helps you as merchants optimize your payment offering online. So everything from what payment methods to offer to, how should I offer one-click checkout? Should I offer buy now, pay later? We asked all the payment questions that you had, and we did it for 11 different subverticals, and health and beauty, so cosmetics was one of them. So all the stats I have will be coming from that, and definitely happy to talk to this later if you guys need it. So jumping off, within this report, we found that there were 4 big trends to help you survive in this post-crisis landscape. So the first one is social shopping is the new normal. 2, buy now, pay later goes mainstream. 3, replenish your revenues through subscriptions. And lastly, 4, shopping without borders. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of the stats and kind of trends that we're seeing with each of these trends. So kicking off, which is my favorite, is social shopping is the new normal. So first and foremost, for cosmetic retailers, I think you guys have been way ahead of the game when it comes to social shopping, because beauty influencers play such a big role within your organizations. But what we really saw in the pandemic is everybody was locked at home. They were extremely bored. They had nothing to do. And so we turned to social media to keep up with our friends, to browse what was happening in the rest of the world, to get our news. And through that, we're seeing an increase in social commerce, so shopping through these social media sites. And on top of that, Facebook finally came out with what we call Facebook checkout and Instagram checkout, where you actually have an in-app checkout experience. So previously, everything was full of redirects. So you'd click on the sweater, you'd get directed to H&M's website, or click on the makeup, get directed to Sephora, and then you had to go through the checkout experience. And all of us in sales know the more clicks that you add to a customer and the more friction that you add just creates another reason for your consumer to leave the shopping experience. So finally, we're coming to the forefront where in-app shopping is a thing. And exactly, social commerce produces an immense opportunity for retailers, and I think especially for cosmetic retailers. So within our report, 64% of health and beauty consumers have already purchased through social media, It was one of the highest of any subvertical. And when you actually look at that by age, so under the age of 35 of those same shoppers, 76% have purchased via social media, which is absolutely insane and just shows the extreme importance to get this channel right that it is for you. And again, I think you guys already know this because 67% of consumers actually seek out info from beauty influencers before making a purchase. So everything about, how do I apply my makeup? What type of face routine should I have at night? Consumers look for that information from the everyday influencer versus not necessarily from the brands. So really important to just make sure that, hey, what if off of that YouTube video and tutorial, you can actually make a purchase right there without having to redirect back to your website. And then on average, the average person has about almost 9 social media accounts. So think about all the free time we have. We're on the computer all day at work. Then we immediately get off work. We turn to our social media on our phones. So it's just another way of those 9 different accounts that you can be capturing their attention and have an opportunity for a sale. And again, just to reiterate, that redirects don't cut it. So previously, I don't know if you guys would ever shop on Instagram, I'd click on the lipstick, it would show up as view on website, I'd get taken back to your website, and then I had to complete the purchase. So again, already that's at least 3 or 4 clicks before I'm making that purchase, and it's just too much. So now what happens is I click on the lipstick that I see in the picture that I really like, and then it'll say, check out now, and Instagram will have saved all of my information and all of my payment details. So it makes it super easy to check out. Combine that with Apple Pay, GPay, or Samsung Pay, one-click checkout, and you have an extremely slick and frictionless experience. And honestly, Pinterest actually just announced that they're going to have in-app shopping as well. So it's definitely coming. It's starting in the US, so it hasn't quite hit the rest of the world yet, but that's because they're testing out the tech, they're optimizing the payment experience. So by the time it hits Europe and Asia, it's going to be absolutely amazing. So definitely keep an eye out for this. So now we jump to our second big trend that we're finding, and that's buy now, pay later goes mainstream. So I've been at WorldPay just over a year and in payments for about 2. And I will say I spend about 20% of my time talking about buy now, pay later. It's here to stay. The players are doing such a great job of getting a consumer base. And what we found in our study is actually 54% of health and beauty shoppers are more likely to purchase if given the option to pay in installments. And it's because makeup products, they add up fast, they can be quite expensive, and it's something that people love buying and they have such an emotional purchase behind it. So offering them the ability to spread that cost over 3 months just makes them that much more likely to maybe buy that extra beauty product that maybe they didn't have the budget for before. And so the stats are there. Buy now, pay later is the fastest growing payment method globally. So every year, WorldPay produces our famous report that we absolutely love. It's the Global Payments Report. So the 2021 version just came out in February. And we saw that buy now, pay later is the fastest. It grew 39% in 2020. It's huge. And we like to predict, okay, what are going to be the top e-commerce trends and what are going to be the top in-store payment trends in 41 different markets. And we found that buy now, pay later is going to represent 14% of all European e-commerce transactions by 2024. Absolutely insane. It's huge. And to give you kind of a perspective of what that is, that's roughly the same amount as bank transfers. So something that's an everyday experience for us, buy now, pay later is going to hit that. And we know some merchants have some gripes about buy now, pay later. It's actually slightly more expensive as a per transaction payment fee, but there are benefits for you as a merchant to accept this payment method. So one, they attract a huge consumer base, but secondly, you do see an increase in average ticket size of about 15%. So we're finding that people actually are more willing to buy the more expensive item or add an extra item to their basket because they are able to spread the cost over a couple months. And so there's some big players around the world that are doing a great job of capturing a consumer base in different regions. We're kind of seeing regional winners, and we're all really anxiously waiting to see who are going to be the big ones. But you have Klarna taking over Europe. They've now spread into Asia and America as well. You have a firm in the US who has a great consumer base, and you have Afterpay in Australia, who's also looking at taking over the world and going into the European and US markets. And what these players have done such a great job at is they are attracting a much younger and even sometimes an affluent customer. They have a great slick user interface. They have a mobile first approach. They have a digital approach. But not just that, they're talking about this installment option not as, oh, hey, you can't afford it. They're talking about it as, oh, wait, let's budget and be financially responsible. So they've kind of flipped the conversation on its head, and that's able to make people feel a lot more comfortable using installment payments. Because guess what? Installments been around forever. I remember as a kid, I'm American, so we had Kmart and they had layaway. And so that was always associated as like, oh, I can't afford it. Let me like pay for it in installments. But now, again, it's just like, oh no, be smart with your money. You don't need to drop 1,000 pounds on a Peloton bicycle. You can spread it out over 3 months and it feels the exact same. So they're doing a really good job, and definitely pay attention to this. The third big trend we're seeing is replenish through subscriptions. So subscriptions have been around for a while. I actually think beauty and cosmetics is where it really blossomed. So you had the subscription boxes like Birchbox, who really kind of made subscriptions a thing. And you have the razor blades from Harry's and everything like that. So beauty has always been a really great place to play with subscriptions. So if you haven't already been looking at it, definitely take a look and see how can you utilize this fantastic way to attract a loyal consumer base, learn more about your customers, but also bring in some predictive and consistent revenue for you. And so it's really important that you kind of look at how you can make this a viable business model for you, because it's really great. When we look at the numbers, we'll admit that subscriptions were kind of getting out of control. Everybody was looking at subscriptions. So the growth was faltering a little bit, but then COVID really just pushed it back into the forefront. So we've seen subscriptions grow over 100% year over year for the past 5 years. It's a lot of different products that we look at to make sure that we can optimize subscriptions. You're seeing with some of our competitors as well that subscriptions are becoming a great part of their revenue model. When we were talking to the health and beauty consumers, actually 28% of them are already utilizing a health and beauty subscription. So definitely when it comes to replenishing their products, your consumer base is already much more comfortable with subscriptions. And then during COVID, we saw that 2 in 5 consumers actually signed up for a new subscription. So I think that was something like, even I caught myself, and I'm sure you all, when you take a deep hard look at yourself, be like, wow, I had way too many subscriptions. I wasn't using them enough. But as soon as you were locked inside the house and going online was the only thing you could see, or you were shopping at some of your favorite brands, signing up for subscription to save money didn't seem like that big of an issue anymore. But again, it's important to think of 2 really important things when it comes to subscriptions. One, what type should you offer? So what type of products? And then secondly, how do you optimize the experience so that you don't risk losing your customers because they feel like they're not utilizing it enough? So when we look at the first reason, so what are the top motives for using a health and beauty subscription? So we asked our health and beauty consumers this, and the 3 top reasons were: 1, a surprise treat; secondly, to try something new; or 3, to replenish something that a regular item that they use all the time. So when I think about beauty, it really doesn't strike me as odd. This seems right up their alley. So I think for you, it's important. Ask your consumers, send out a survey and ask them what are they looking for in their subscription base, and then find what works for you and try to implement it. And then secondly, it's execute it properly. And this is the hard part, and something that you should really lay out, how do you want your subscription process to go? And then how do you optimize it? So first and foremost, what we see is make sure you have an easy sign-up process. So offer the preferred payment method of your consumer. So if you're, an Asian consumer base, WeChat and Alipay. If you're in Europe, possibly PayPal, or definitely Samsung, GPay, and Apple Pay. If you're in America, Visa Direct, PayPal, all of the fun stuff. Offer a mobile first experience. So we are seeing mobile commerce. It's here to stay. It's replacing the desktop e-commerce. So make sure you lead with a mobile first approach when designing your app or your website. And lastly, automatically check for new cards. So we have a product account updater that came about because we saw that this was really an issue. So most people, we misplace our credit card or we get an updated card about one time a year, maybe once every 2 years. And no, we don't go around and remember every place we have a stored card credential and update our card. But then on the merchant side, it can be quite frustrating because as you go to charge that card for their regular subscription, you get a decline and then get charged that fee. So what we found is it was costing merchants a lot of money as they were constantly trying to authorize a card that just didn't really exist. So we have the technology, and probably your acquirer as well, to automatically check for those card updates and get you the authorization. And then the next time around, we remind the consumer, oh, hey, you need to update your card credentials, but we're saving tons of money. So definitely look into this technology and understand, because it can come with some high costs if your consumers aren't regularly updating their cards. Second way of executing properly is to offer a frictionless payment experience. So number one, pick the best time to ask for a payment. Goes without saying, if someone gets paid on the 15th, do not take the subscription payment on the 14th. Allow them to pick the day that works best for them, and you'll find that you'll have a much loyal consumer. Make sure the payment experience is fully secure. So during part of our research, we asked our consumers, what are ways that you would think your payment would be safe? And something as simple as putting a security symbol on your checkout page, when it may not do anything, actually doesn't do anything, it's just an image, it just makes people feel that much safer about the payment experience and that their credit card details aren't going to be stolen. And lastly, offer the ability to pause. I think a lot of this, if any of y'all have a food subscription, I do, it is a game changer. So I remember back in the day, you didn't have the opportunity to pause. It was like, no, you are getting this meal box every week, whether you like it or not. And so eventually it just gets to the point where you get kind of tired of the service and you don't want it anymore and you cancel it and you never come back. But nowadays, it's amazing. It's like, cool, this week I'm busy. I'm traveling, or you know what, I just don't feel like getting the food this week because I'm going to be eating out every night. I can just cancel and skip that week and move on to the next. And there's no shaming, there's no having to talk to the help desk or the chat bot. It's just an easy process and you're putting it in the hands of the customer. So make sure you offer them the ability that if they feel like they're not using their subscription every month, they have beauty products piling up, they can skip a month or two to kind of catch back up with the service, and they're more likely to stay on with you versus canceling the subscription altogether. And then last way, the third way to execute properly is to build relationships. So create a community to help increase engagement. One thing that my food delivery box does really well is every single week when you go on, they remind you to rate the recipes that you got, and then they create you a little cookbook and selection of all the recipes that you've ever rated really highly. So find a way to kind of bring that community engagement within your subscription. So whether it's, oh, hey, we gave this lipstick to everyone, or this new night cream, and then it's linked to a beauty influencer showing them a tutorial on how to use it. So again, creating that chat and that engagement and a reason for them to interact with you beyond the subscription is going to build a loyal customer base. And again, that kind of goes with connect with your customer and make sure you're tracking data to help personalize those products. So you can get the payment process completely right, but in the end, it's really about the product and making sure you're giving them something that they actually want. Our fourth and last trend that we really found is shopping without borders. So a good stat here that I like to show out is we work with a cross-border platform called Global E, and they saw a 21% year-over-year increase in global cross-border sales last year, January through June, right when the pandemic was kicking off. And they saw Q2 sales soar by 53%. Absolutely insane. And I think the more we all shop online, we actually have no idea where our products are coming from. And to be quite frank, some of us probably don't care. We don't know if we're shopping on a French website. As long as the price is right and the product is what we want, and we know that it's going to get delivered to us, it can come from anywhere. And so I think that's really important, that especially in cosmetic industry, where you guys build such loyal fans, and shopping cross border is something that you will find people wanting the next big facial cream from Korea, or that great Kim Kardashian beauty brand, and it will attract customers. So definitely something to keep in mind. And we saw it when we asked our customers. So 61% of health and beauty shoppers have actually already made a purchase cross-border. So again, one of the more of the verticals that we did the research on, it was one of the highest numbers. And this actually reminds me, I did back when I worked in Bain, worked in strategy consulting. I was doing a due diligence on a big makeup brand in America, and they didn't have any other stores outside of the US. So we were looking at a global expansion strategy for them. And when we were interviewing merchants throughout Europe and throughout Asia, the amount of pent up demand for this brand was insane. So you had people who were actually going to America, buying product, and then selling it on eBay over in Europe. And you're like, the fact that beauty has such a follower base like that is completely fantastic. So it's great that the brands can kind of take that control for themselves and make sure they set up their website for cross-border shopping if once you guys hit that mass peak. And again, cross-border e-commerce is here to stay. So it's predicted to be a $660 billion industry by billion euro industry by 2023. And on the right-hand side, you see a little bit of the stats of when we asked our shoppers. So what percentage of shoppers that have purchased health and beauty online from another country? So again, the numbers are quite high. So you have countries like Colombia, Mexico, and Australia who are in the 70 to 80% percentile. And then even the US and the UK on the lower end are at still around 50% of consumers have shopped cross-border. But there isn't an average international shopper. So we asked people, why do you buy products cross-border? And it ranged from everything that they can find a better price internationally. So this happens a lot when you're flying in airports and like, oh, the product is actually cheaper in America because of the exchange rate. So people play that game. Or the brand or product is not available in that country. So this happens a lot with luxury brands. It could be that somebody is looking for something unique. So I want to be able to tell a story about my product that I got it on vacation when I was in Thailand, and it has a story behind it. Or what happens a lot in the US is that you actually find a lower price when shopping on a local marketplace from a foreign dealer. And so when you look at the different countries, there's always a slightly different reason of like why that country shops cross-border versus the other. So when you look at the US, the number one reason is that lower price at an international retailer. So this happens a lot when you're shopping on Amazon and you'll see, okay, I need a frying pan, and you can get a frying pan from the Chinese manufacturer, and it costs £5 less, $5 less than the US distributor. So you'll see that happen a lot. But then when you look at Asia, the number one reason at 49% of why people shop cross-border is that the brand or product isn't available. So you have a lot of Asian consumers looking at the Western markets for maybe that luxury brand or something that hasn't quite made it overseas yet. So definitely, again, ask your customer, what are they looking for? Know who they are, and then make sure you're kind of offering those products and optimizing that experience for your cross-border shopping. And then lastly, the number one thing we find about cross-border, the reason why people don't do it, is because of trust. And they often get uncomfortable about shopping on a foreign website if it's, if they just feel like maybe something isn't safe and they don't really trust that you're going to deliver the product. So again, we ask our customers a lot about what will build trust for you in order to make this a great shopping experience and have them actually make the purchase. And it really comes down to three things. So first, it's language. Make sure you offer your website in their local language and their local currency. 62% of users demand this, and it's a no-brainer. There's a lot of foreign transaction fees whenever you know, pay with your American credit card on a UK website. I may get charged a fee because of that. But if you offer in that local currency, one, I don't have to make the exchange rate in my head. Two, it makes me feel like you've done this before and you often deal with American consumers or British consumers. And then, yeah, it just makes people feel a lot more comfortable and possibly they won't have those foreign transaction fees. Secondly, it's offer their preferred payment method. 69% of consumers demand this. And that's really easy. You know, I said it earlier in the presentation, but understand if you are attracting a certain type of customer from a specific country or region onto your site for that cross-border shopping, make it easy for them to do so. So if you have a big Asian consumer base, it's all about WeChat and Alipay. I think it's around 60 to 70% of their payment methods are done through that. So it's a no-brainer to offer that. If you have an American consumer shopping on your site, possibly look at PayPal, but just make sure you accept the big global schemes, which usually is a no-brainer. And then again, if you're shopping in Europe, previously we just talked about buy now, pay later and how Klarna is huge. So understanding that, how it works for you and offering that as a payment method could be really, really big. And then lastly, the third way to build trust is attainability. So make sure the price and the availability of the product is just super transparent. So again, what we kind of said in the stats before is that 60% of people are really looking for cheaper pricing, and 40% look for products that aren't available locally. But honestly, I think you'll be quite astonished at how much people are willing to shop cross-border as long as there's no hidden fees or costs. So give them the shipping costs up front, let them know if they're going to have to pay the duty or taxes and they come in, and just make it really easy for them. And a lot of customers are happy to pay the extra 20 pounds or whatever it is to ship something if they really want the product. So again, all about understanding, is it price or is it the product that people are really looking at, and you can price accordingly. Well, that is it for us today. Um, Open up to Q&A, but always, always feel free to email me if nobody wants to ask a question right now.
Thank you so much, Holly, for that presentation. I mean, definitely a hot topic at the moment to look at different payment solutions and doing it properly and well as more people move to the online space. So that was really in depth. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome.
We have got one question coming for you. I think we've probably got time for one. Joe has asked, what potential do you think live stream shopping could have in the West?
Yeah, you know, it's honest. I love hearing the stories about how in China, like people are selling homes and what was there, like a rocket
What?
that was sold. So absolutely insane and completely cool. And I definitely think it could happen, especially in cosmetics. Like it's one of those things that you have these influencers who have so much power, the Kardashians of the world, the Anastasia Beverly Hills. You have brands that are drawing so much immense power that I think if it's going to work anywhere, it's going to work in cosmetics, but 100% has the ability to work, especially as Instagram live streaming becomes a thing and TikTok live streaming. I think we've always seen that China and Asia is like way ahead of us when it comes to social media, when it comes to digital payment methods, when it comes to being mobile first. So kind of you can always kind of predict what's going to happen in the West by looking at the tech and the payment trends and the shopping trends that are happening there. So start playing around with it, start looking into it. It's not at its peak yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen some examples. I mean, you know, fashion shows, live streaming, and then I'm pretty sure that people can buy the clothes as they're sort of going down the runway. I'm pretty sure that's the thing now. So thank you again, Holly, so much. That's all we've got time for, but it's been a pleasure having you on Cosmetics Business Live, and thank you for imparting all of that knowledge for our viewers.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Becky. Thank you, everyone.